pleasure to be able to help with the debate by moderating. But this debate is really about you listening to these two gentlemen and why they should be your student trustee. So let me just say a little bit about, first, my name is Dr. Frank Talty. I'm Director of Academic Programs in the Fine Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences Division, and I teach political science. I should also add that I was a student trustee here at UMass Lowell when I was a student. In fact, I was the first student trustee at the University of Lowell in 1975. So I have strong feelings about the importance of the position, and I've spoken to both candidates ahead of time. We've talked about the format, and they were in agreement. So the format will be as follows. Each candidate will give a brief opening statement of their choice. There are no restrictions or guidelines on what they can say. They are given 2.5 minutes to do that. They didn't have to use all of it, but we try to limit it to that. After that, there will be questions. Each question, we'll try to keep it crisp by having the answer. We'll alternate questions between the candidates, and we will each. The first question will go to a candidate in 3 minutes. The response will be 2 minutes, but then it will alternate so that the next question will be 3 and 2 in the other direction. As I said, I'm going to take some questions from you. I will pick one of those as the second question. I will ask the first question. The candidates have also agreed to do something which is sort of courageous, and they've agreed to ask a question of each other. So I will ask each candidate to have a chance to ask the other candidate a question, and then they can respond to the answer to their own question. So that will be 2 more questions. Then we'll go back to you for a second question, to me for a second question, and then we'll see where we're at for time. And if we're still on a good schedule to keep this under an hour, we'll go to another question from you, or perhaps even another question from me, time permitting. Okay? And then finally, each candidate will have an opportunity to give a closing statement of approximately up to 2 minutes. So that having been said, I will introduce them by name, and I'll let them in their opening statements tell you more about them. But for the purposes of complete impartiality, I'm going to ask, let's see, Tony, do you have a coin on you there?
No.
No coin on the trustee. That tells you a little bit about the economics.
Oh, I do.
Okay. If you could please flip that, and we'll give the incumbent a call, not necessarily first place. Your call, Dave. Enter Tails.
Tails.
Okay. Thank you. So the first statement will be by David Kaufman. And David, you have 2.5 minutes, beginning now.
All right. First, I'd just like to introduce myself in general. I'm a junior here at UMass Lowell, of course, a poli-sci major, political science. And during the last year, I've served as a student trustee on the board of trustees of the UMass system. And just starting, I want to thank everyone for being here, obviously, and especially, and I can tell it's killing Dr. Totley for missing an opening day for the Red Sox, but I still commend you guys for being here, and it's a very important part of the university. And I just really want to stress the experience that I've gained through the year on the board, and which will even better prepare me to be reelected as a student trustee. And in the actual upcoming year on the board, the UMass Lowell trustee will have a vote, which in the year previously did not. When I was on the board this year, I did not have a vote. I couldn't make motions, certain kind of legislative and policy decisions like that. And this upcoming year, I will have a vote, or whoever does get elected. And that's why I'm looking for a re-election. I want to stress my experience that I have, and I stress on 3 overarching goals. And those goals are, protecting student life on campus and off campus. And that's protecting programs, whether it's academic programs or the marching band and athletics and intramurals, all those kind of programs that really are vital to the university. And then honestly, I really stress a better access to information, whether it's a more user-friendly website or just more access online to students so everyone can be informed. To make transportation services better, making them more efficient, because we always see the lines of people waiting for the bus, and they always seek alternative transportation. increasing more campus safety, which is always just as important. On a campus that's in an urban setting, you really need to stress that. Directly, whether it's in infrastructure of a bridge or actual safety on campus. The next overarching goal I see is continue the positive trend that UMass Lowell is going, and to grow campus unity so there's not a south and north and east campus that are segregated. It's really gaining an identity as a whole. You need to hold the university accountable, to offer the world-class kind of facilities and to all the undergraduate and graduate students. And also, we can see the way UMass can grow. You can see it on the horizon. We need to continue that, and we need to stress the importance of what we all share. We share a degree from this university, and if we really need to, if we want them to gain value, so when we enter the workforce, we need to stress that importance. And then the third overarching goal I see is keeping UMass affordable and accessible to everyone. You need to push. I did this during the year. You need to push the UMass system. They contribute a lot, but they need to continue this. You need to offer more financial need-based grants and aid for all students. You need to push the state legislature. I think a lot of us here know, and I know there's a phenom rally tomorrow. Jeff knows that. Hopefully there's still a bus seat for me tomorrow. And you need to stress accessibility for the UMass Lowell education.
Thank you. Michael, you have 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Okay, my name is Michael Reed. Thank you all for coming. This year I was a senator of student government. I'm also actually the vice chair of communications. Over the past year, I've served on 4 of the 5 committees. So I have a breadth of knowledge about what student government does and a background for those who run for student trustee. As part of my position as vice chair, I help run the committee with Will Breton. And the communications committee is the most important part of the committee is to spread information to the students and to promote events for student government. And that's fairly similar to the trustee, whereas the trustee needs to spread this information. The communication is very important with the trustee to spread information with the board meetings, what happens during the board meetings, what information they're working on, and also communication with the board, with the student voice. I think in the past, the student trustee has really a lot of information from the board, but we need to continue growing our voice to the board. And I'd really like to contact a lot of them, a whole breadth of different students from different campuses. And I also need to, one of my goals is to contact all the other student trustees next year and get a group going so that each student trustee will know what's going on each different campus. And so we can, together, we can create a better university. Some of the goals for next year would be to, some are actually very similar to Dave's, is to, for affordability. But there was a lot of controversy with the $1,500 increase in the fees, and I do want to say that with the fee increase, against any increase that's above the cost of living index, to make sure that the university, it does give financial aid, but if the fees go up too high, there's a certain point where it'll be almost impossible for some students to come here. And that's, I think, in a debate between affordability versus quality, accessibility and affordability for this university is very important.
Very good, thank you. Corey. Let me ask a question. I did, for those of you that just came in, have students write out some questions for the candidates, and there's still time to do that. I have what will be the first question here, but I'll be asking another one afterwards, so that if you still, if you'd like to ask a question, please write it out for me. We don't have time for them all, but I'm going to select a couple. We'll make sure they're not redundant and that they're appropriate. Okay, so if you want to do that, please do that, and I'll collect those in a couple of minutes. Thank you. I'll offer the first question, and we'll stay with this order. So the first question goes to David Cobb, and then we'll reverse the order on the second question. My question is, should a student trustee do what is in the best interests of the students, even if that may be at the expense of the overall health to the university? You have 3 minutes.
Well, you know, from my experience, I realize there is sometimes a dilemma on this issue, and you really need to put everything together to get the best interest for the students. And with that, the university, is dependent on the students. Without students, there is no university. There's no point for the university. So you need to, when you formulate a plan for the best interest of the students in general, you need to really stress the students and what's best, long term, short term. You need to take it all into consideration. It's a very complicated, process, but you need to, take it all into consideration. Whether it's, general affordability, where you want the campus to grow, whether it's adding new programs, athletics, growing, whether it's an instrumental program or what have you. You need to formulate that all into a, strategic plan for what's in the best interest of the student that's going to be going to this university, that at the end will have a degree that's worth something and that they can afford, whether it's pay off the loans or that they can afford from fee-based, grants and aids, and obviously merit scholarships as well. So you really need to stress, what's the best interest. But in the question, if it's not either in the best health for the university, well, like I said, I want to stress that without the students, there is no point for the university. It really does revolve around it, but you do need to take all aspects of the university, whether it's a budget or what have you, to the overall strategic plan for it.
You want to repeat the question?
Please again.
The question was, should a student trustee do what is in the best interests of the students, even if it may be at the expense of the overall health of the university? You have 2 minutes.
I do agree with that to a point. It's very important to sustain the health of the university. One thing I'd like to say, though, is that if it was a determination between the student's voice, what the students are saying, and the overall health of the university, it's imperative that the student trustee make sure that focuses on the reasons why maybe it's against the student voice, and make sure there's periodicals and different means of communication that stresses the difference between the student voice and which direction the board would go.
Okay. The next question is from one of the students here present, and this question, Michael, will go to you first. The question is, and I'll read it exactly as it was written. The student trustee position represents both graduate and undergraduate students. As undergraduate students yourselves, how do you plan to reach out to graduate students? You have 3 minutes.
As part of the plan for a student trustee, for me, is with the contact with the graduate students. At first, it seems difficult because for the majority, they'll stay on campus, and it's hard to reach out to them. But I'm planning to have articles in the paper, or maybe everyone's continually growing. The online population on Facebook and different groups like that are continuing to grow. So that would be one of the ways I can reach out to them. There's plenty of places on campus that are available to meet graduate students. For those who are interested, I hold meetings with them, kind of meet them, and answer their questions, or if they choose to kind of see my online profile or online group for student trustee, that would be another way.
David, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I know.
Okay.
Well, for me, just from the last year, I think I have done that. I've had numerous meetings with the Graduate Student Association, who's president here, and I've maintained good contact with a lot of different graduate students. We, as undergraduates, we kind of, think that it's pretty funny because the graduate students are a different demographic. They're, not like, he said, they're not always on campus, but they're different where, they're more focused on specific, paths that they're going, whether it's research or what have you. So, from what I've talked to them, is what they really stress is that, they can maintain, union jobs, union staff positions, and, maintain money for research. And that's what I always will push for to help all of our students, not just the undergraduates, but also the graduates. And I have had meetings with each set of graduate students, whether they have an issue or some question to bring up. And I stress the importance that you need to reach out to all the students, including the graduate students.
Very good. One of the things that the candidates agreed to ahead of time, as I mentioned at the top, is to ask a question of each other. So with that, I believe David Kaufman, it's your turn. You have a question from Michael Reed.
Yes. Well, my question to you, Mike, is what, I've served the last year as a student trustee. What makes you more qualified than me to become a trustee?
With the trustee position, there's plenty of, there's a breadth of information out there, and there's plenty of groups that have kind of prepared me to be here. Student government has helped tremendously in working with other students. Being a vice chair of the communications committee has prepared me for that as well, to talk to students, to get out there more, to be more vocal, to spread information to the student body. I have access to the other student trustees, so if I had a question, there's 4 other ones on the board that can help me with any project that I have, or for people who've served before. If there's any, I'm not sure if there's any returning trustees that I'm sure they'd be more welcome to help me with that.
Okay, you have time to reply. I think we're doing so well with the time, I'm not going to be too fussy because I don't think anybody's used all the time they have available. So
okay.
Unless that happens, I think, don't worry about your time now, but you've got time to respond to your own question.
Okay, well, I just really wanted to clarify that there is a difference between such a vice chair as on a committee and being a student trustee. And I do realize that there are numerous networking tools you can use on the board, which I believe I have achieved. I have done. I talked to other trustees, but whether it's about issues or anything that pertains to the board or our individual campuses, which are different, but we do share an identity that is UMass. So I just want to stress that I do have I believe that there is a difference between a vice chair of a certain committee and actually being a full year of experience on the board and knowing all the tools that you have to use.
Okay, now Mike, you have an opportunity to ask a question for David. Michael Reed to David Kaufman. Your question, Michael?
Sure. Dave, my question is, with a whole other year, what are your plans to increase your projects involvement with the trustee position? What are the changes you're going to make next year?
Well, let's see. One of the ideas that I did bring to the board, and I serve on several committees on the board, and one of them was the advancement committee, which deals with fundraising and alumni gifts. And one of the ideas I brought in it was around the board before, and I worked with some of the other trustees to develop a plan to work with the Registry of Motor Vehicles to get a specialty plate, which you'll see the Red Sox specialty plate or the Bruins, which goes to several charities. But it's just to be a UMass Lowell, UMass branding tool, which will be a license plate, which I think will cost about $40, and it will be a good alumni tool, but also it will be good for branding on the university. You'll see that, and it goes to scholarships and directly to students. You'll need, I think, $26 out of that 40 would go into funds for students for federal aid or just aid for students and scholarships that will help all the students that go here. So I think that's one of the plans. And continuing with that is just working with other parts of the board to maintain that I'm protecting everything at this university, whether it's just the affordability and accessibility, which I have taken a stand on my campaign to next year with the vote on the Board of Trustees. I vow to not vote against any fee increase. I understand there's a difference between last year, but this year I do realize that there's a difference, and there's a fine line what you can and can't do. And I've gone over different scenarios, and that is a part of my campaign where I need to realize that it's something that can't be done, especially in the future.
Michael, you have a couple of minutes to respond to that question.
I do like that idea, the specialty plate, and definitely I would be, I mean, to work with the university to using plenty of different areas. But what?
Okay, so let's go to a question from the students. There were a couple of questions on the issue of parking, but there's one question that actually is a little broader than that includes parking, so if you allow me, I'm going to give you this question. And I believe that the last question was asked by Michael, so this question goes to David first. The question is, do you have any specific plans to address commuter issues such as parking, access to food plans on campus, and making space for commuters to utilize the campus?
Okay. Well, for commuters on campus, I actually, my first semester I did commute here from 20 minutes from nearby Lowell. So I do know how hectic it can be, and I know with increasing enrollment at the university, it's even harder. So we do need to protect that part of our population. We need to make sure that they will have a place to park and at a reasonable price, obviously. And you need to protect that. And whether it's something it's something that needs to be revised and looked at for a university to make sure that the commuter population that's coming in will be taken care of, so that there's not a lot too many going into an overfull lot, or people aren't missing class for it. That's something that you need to make sure is not be taken advantage of. And with meal plans, I know from commuters. Like I said, me being, I was a commuter the first semester, and I do know the problem with that. And you need to make sure that, I know there's, block meals or something like that, but you need to make sure there's plenty of options. And that can be negotiated with the Airmark service. We are contracted for another, I believe, 2 years, but you need to make sure that all commuter students and all students have the options that meet their needs on the university, no matter, whether they're living on campus or the commuters.
Mike, do you want to repeat the question, or do you have it?
I do have it. Thank you. Parking is definitely a concern on campus, but as trustee, I would be really excited to work with Res Life and the new Gotta Be Here kind of promoting people to live on campus. They want, Marty's kind of mission is to have 50-50 commuters and residents by 2014, and that's kind of one of the ways we can help with this parking commuter problem. If we can invite more, get more people to stay on campus, I think that would be less of an issue. Airmark, I believe, is up for negotiation next year, so meal plans for that would be something we could definitely talk about for students for that commute, or even students that live off campus that aren't a part of the meal plan right now. They can actually eat, at Fox or any one of the dining halls, which would bring them closer to the university.
Very good. Okay, the next question is from me, but before I do that, for those of you that are wondering, after one inning, Red Sox won Tampa Bay. Anyway, and my question to, I believe, Michael, you get the question this time. All right. Can you say what you think are the greatest strengths of UMass Lowell campus?
I think the greatest strengths right here is the sheer number that we have, and with higher education in the private colleges being more and more expensive these days, people are going to be moving to public education, and we can use those people that are coming to us to help with our financial condition. I believe the admissions, the number of admissions, the number of applications, to the university, I think that at least 20% along the lines with other public colleges around here. Some of the other ones we have is there's a lot of, in terms of footprint of the university. It's, we have 3 different campuses, and there's a lot of space, and which is also another asset to the university. And one of my goals is to bring them closer, residents east, and make them more interactive with South and North as well.
the greatest strengths of the
Yeah.
high school?
Well, I think this campus, or this UMass campus at Lowell has many strengths, and it's not just that we can gain more revenue from more students. It's the quality of the students that we have. You can look over the figures, not just when you have more enrollment, but over the years, our quality GPA and our academic quality has been better, and that's through investment with better teachers, that are world-renowned, and through our facilities that keep getting better. We're one of the many few, especially regionally. I know it's Massachusetts. It's kind of against nuclear power, but we do have a nuclear research reactor, which is good for getting a new workforce out there. So we do have a lot of qualities that can bring in a lot of money and funding and students from around the world. It's not just a regional hub anymore, just another state school. We are something that not many schools around here can offer. It's our students, the quality of our faculty, and our staff, and the research that we do here.
Very good. I have a couple more questions from students. I think we have time. What time do we have? How are we doing for overall time?
I think it's 4:30, right?
Yeah, just half past.
A second.
We'll get through it. It is. All right. The question from one of the students is, in the event of, and this question I believe starts with, in the event of the formation of a statewide student union to advocate for reduced tuition and fees, what part would you play? I should say, there are several questions about fees, and I think this one sort of encapsulates a lot. In the event of the formation of a statewide student union to advocate for reduced tuition and fees, what part would you play in supporting that union's chapter at UML? And I guess include within that your take on the whole idea of reduced tuition and fees.
Okay. Well, I see all aspects of the university, and what really affects the students. And, it's the cost, it's the quality, it's a lot of different factors. And just as trustee, you have to support all the aspects of the university, whether it's a chapter of statewide organization or what. You need to look out for the best interests of all the students you can. But with that, I do think that we do need to fees can't get out of hand. We had that's why I have taken the stand to go against any other fees next year, because we have realized what happened at the last board meeting with raised fees, and then federal stimulus money came in, which didn't solve the problem. There's still a problem of underfunding from the state. That's a big issue, and it needs to be addressed. And I know tomorrow there is a phenom rally at the State House, which I hope if anyone can attend. I know Jeff, there's a bus leaving at 9, so if anyone can attend, I suggest that. But that is a problem that we need to face, and reduce cost and accessibility is something that it's very practical. But at the same time, you need to keep pushing the state. You need to make sure that we're not getting privatized, and as a university that just going to have to fund themselves. But you need to push the state, and you need to start.
Michael, do you want to get your question?
Yes.
The question, because it was actually quite long, is in the event of the formation of a statewide student union to advocate to reduce tuition fees, what part would you play in supporting that union's chapter here at UMass?
That's it. As student trustee, again, communication is very important. So I would stress, I would make sure that the entire student body knew about this chapter, and for people who wanted to join the chapter or be involved with it would have that opportunity to do so. I definitely think that that would be a great asset for this university to have a chapter of a group that would work against higher student fees.
Very good. Let me ask one more, and then we'll go to another question from students. I asked her before what you saw as the greatest strengths of the university. I'm interested in what you think are the greatest challenges to this university. We're talking long-term now, in the next 10 years. In the next 10 years, what do you see as the greatest challenges to the university, starting with Mark?
I'd say the challenges here would be, would work with the affordability. there's been a trend in higher education that it's been going, it's out of hand. And over the next 10 years, I'd say that one of the biggest challenges is to get more higher public funding, more state funding for us, and so that it's more affordable and accessible for other students while maintaining that quality that we have now.
Well, like I said, I emphasize a lot of strengths, but there are some challenges that we need to address, and it is affordability, which I think starts at the state legislature. Like I got to say before, you need to push the state legislature to make sure that you can't sit idly by and take it from the state. But with that, there is also a problem where I think I addressed it partly before, that the campus is separated. Obviously geographically it is separated, but it also is, it's not just academic programs, but you don't see that many East Campus students on South and vice versa. You need to address that problem. You need to have some campus unity. For everyone to attend UMass Lowell, not just you're going to have a student that's going to always be in the North or what have you. Whether it's expanding different events on each campus but get students there, or with other ideas. I know there's an idea for getting a new intramural field on South Campus to get students there to have another regional center for campus recreation and student life. I support that idea, and I think getting the strategic plan for the next 10 years. You need to address those, and then it's getting more state funding and making a campus unity.
I'd say also too that that part of the trustee position, I guess, working with the university, is to make sure that there's publicized reports, for any student to pick up, to make because every student has the right to know what's going on with the board. And yes, the student trustee is elected to be the representative on the board, but I think more students over the years, more students should become involved, and involved in what's going on with the board, and they, in turn, can help the decision making.
I think I might have missed a cycle there. If I didn't, did you get a chance to answer that question twice?
Yeah.
That's okay. So we appreciate that. Trying to keep the order straight here. So I think the next question actually does go to Dave. This is a question that I think incorporates a couple of other student questions, and I'm going to, if you give me the liberty, sort of paraphrase, but end up asking part of the question verbatim from the student question. As most of you know, because you've heard Chancellor Meehan talk about it on a number of occasions, the percentage of the overall operating budget of the university here today is less than a third. When I was a student here, it was about 75%. So more than 2/3 of the budget now comes from sources other than the state legislature. The question deals with the state legislature and its cuts to the higher ed budget, but asks this, and this is the question: are there other areas? Are there any other areas of funding that the university needs to explore?
Well, you have a lot of different sources of funding, and obviously, over the years, universities had to do that. They've had to look outside, and there are, just because you push the state legislature doesn't mean you should stop with the looking out for gifts and alumni, help. You need to look for a lot of different funding, but you can't just you can't put it all on the students, and that's a trend that doesn't need to stop. And so, not just pushing the state legislature, which is the biggest goal. You need to also continue, whether it's through advancement, getting more fundraising, getting more gifts, getting more gifts for research and a lot of different programs to fund this university. And you need to really make sure that it will grow positively, to continue that trend going into the future to make it a world-class university. But you do need to keep it, a state university, which it is. And there's always the figures of where Massachusetts is for funding. And I think it's about like you said, a third. I think it's around 35% around now, which is probably less now. So now because the 9C cuts and the anticipated budget cuts. But just 10 years ago it was 50%. And that's something that needs to change. But at the same time, you need to go on two fronts. Again, continuing to get, other funding for research and funding programs, outside the box. And that is a good thing. Having a chancellor with that kind of background does help those, with the connections to getting other funding.
Michael, other sources of revenue for the university to explore?
I definitely say that with the quality of the university, as it decreases, as the degree is worth more, I think people alone would be more willing to donate, and you could get, Marty is again is really good at that, to finding more kind of source of income. I'd say, yeah, the more alumni would be willing to donate to a university that they respect and they admire. With the nanotech building on campus, I'd say is another great way to increase revenue and also provide students more options in learning here.
I'd like to follow that up with a question of mine that relates to that. I think both of you mentioned in your answer alumni. As an alumnus myself, I'm familiar with what the university's done over the last many years in terms of staying in touch with those that graduate from here. How would you, as trustee, Michael, encourage current students to develop the kind of loyalty that makes for good alumni?
With loyalty to this university, you first start off with promoting different organizations on campus and promoting different ways students can get involved. Because if the students get involved with the student of the university as much as we have the quality of the education, and you remember your undergrad or graduate experience, and you put the friends you've kind of gathered along the way, and the different opportunities you were granted here will really help.
Yeah, well, I think one thing you might have missed is just how loyalty is really built on kids. It's through student life, student experience. If there was some problem where there's a student who couldn't get the help he needed with advising or whatever, those are the type of things. Those are the type of issues that affect when students become alumni. They'll remember them, and I've talked to people who do graduate. They'll bring up something like that, and that's really what you do. And I've advocated that on the advancement committee on the board, which deals with fundraising and alumni. They say, and they're talking about where are we going to get these major gifts and stuff like that, which is important. Which we discussed outside funding, but at the same time, you need to make sure you have 100% dedication to the student life. And that's not just on campus, that's commuters, that's everyone. You need to make sure that's the number one priority, because those cards will fall. Those will fall right after. Those dominoes will come right after. You will get good, loyal alumni when they have a good experience here. So that's making things more efficient, whether it's the bus system, the transportation system, or just giving the best experience to a student on campus and off campus, undergraduate and graduate.
Very good. This, I think, will be the last question, and it's a question from one of the students. This will give you an opportunity to be creative. I think the question is, what's the biggest or the toughest challenge that you've faced in your current position? And that applies to either student trustee or your student government position. And what is the toughest challenge you've faced as a student at the university? So it's a two-part question, I guess, fair enough. What's the biggest or toughest challenge you faced in your current position in student elected life? And what is your toughest challenge that you faced as a student at the university?
Yeah. Well, as a student trustee, obviously we know that there was a big issue of fee, the fee increase, and it was tough. I did not have a vote on the board, but I had to sit there and look at all the different aspects of the university. On one hand, you don't want to affect students because like I've been quoted saying, "What student wakes up and wants to be?" It's not a practical matter. But at the same time, you need to look at a fiscal policy that's going to sustain you in the upcoming years. That's really something I juggled with, and it was hard to discuss. And I really don't know how I would have voted if I had. it was that close, and it was hard for me. But at the same time, you need to put everything together to formulate a plan that's going to be in best interest for the students at the university, in all aspects of the university, the programs, everything that affects the student life. As a student, I probably have to say that it's similar to being a student trustee, just kind of juggling my academics and with all the extracurricular stuff, whether it's intramurals that I participate in pretty frequently, and leisure time working about 20 hours a week, and at the same time, trying to get the classes and get homework done and papers and all that stuff. As a poli-sci major, I do a lot of papers, but it's pretty much just juggling that, and you really need someone who can just. I think I've done a pretty good job with making sure that my academics and everything falls in line and stay organized. But that's been a big challenge to get out of the old habits of procrastination and all that kind of stuff that I have done in the past. I think that over the last year I've changed, and I think that's been a challenge to address.
Michael, the question is, I recall, the toughest or biggest challenge you faced in your current position, elected student position, and secondly, the toughest challenge you faced as a student.
Sure. I'd say probably the toughest kind of challenge that I've had with student government as being a senator is to really promote student government. I know with the whole fee increase problem, the dilemma we had on campus, there was a lot of students who came up to us after we had made a resolution for the fee increase, saying, why weren't we told about this? And I guess that's the biggest challenge, is to get students aware that we're out here and kind of promoting different SGA events to get more interaction from the students with the student government. And I'd say as a student, again with Dave, this managing responsibility, and I think that done a good job with that. I'd say as a student trustee, I can definitely say that I'm ready for a new challenge, a new venture to promote, and also with the challenge of student government, getting communication out there. I do the same thing with the trustee, getting more students involved with the trustee, meeting more people, having kind of meet and greets, even using multi-purpose room Fox or a venue like this, where people can meet the student trustee and kind of discuss current issues and answer questions face to face rather than send the email along the way.
That brings us to the final part of tonight's debate, and that is closing statements. Each candidate have the opportunity to give a closing statement of a couple of minutes. We have time, so we're not going to hold too tightly to it. But why don't we go in the reverse order, since David gave the first opening statement, why don't we allow Michael to give the first closing statement?
I just want to say that as part of my kind of vision of what I would do as a student trustee is to change some things on campus, definitely to make sure to push for affordable housing, accessible housing. There's plenty more options besides building a new dorm building. We can get more students involved with this. I'd love to work with Press Life and they've got to be a campaign to get more students on campus. I do also want to make sure that the flow of information is not just from the Board of Trustees down to the students, but it's also a two-way street. And so that students can feel confident that their voice on campus is heard, as well as hearing from the board itself. I'd have to say that I'm part of a legacy here on campus. My father went here, and two of my uncles, and my brother and cousin are also starting in the fall. So it's part of a long kind of line of students here. And my father still says that he loves that he graduated from here, and he can't say enough about the university and how much it's grown. And my work here as student trustee would not only benefit the students here, but for the next generations. And I'd love to welcome the new students at the convocation next year as they kind of start their journey. And any tasks that I do, any projects that I work with on the board, would benefit them.
Yeah, so I just want to, stress again, because if re-elected, I just want to show that my experience will, show, and I will continue to work tirelessly, to forward the students for the student life, and just UMass Lowell. And I know in previous, there's certain local, pressure on the board that Lowell kind of takes a back seat. That's unacceptable. And I've stated on the board, there's UMass Lowell is. I think they have the most to offer right now, more than the other ones. Obviously Amherst will be the flagship of UMass, but I've been there and I've seen a lot of what goes on. I know, and I think UMass Lowell is where people want to be. We have so much to offer. But like I said before, you have the quality students, you have quality faculty and staff, and everything's growing in a positive trend. And I think what I'll show is just how much I am indebted to this university. I'm not a student government president-elect. There's no stipend. This is just for what I want to do. This is what I get out of it. Is doing what's right for the students, what's right for everybody. Because we do share something. I've discussed it. We want to maintain and continue towards a campus unity, but we all share a degree, and we need to make sure that gains value. That down the years, we're going to go, wow, how much has changed. I've been here this is my third year, and I've seen how much has changed in 2 years. It's going to that positive trend. I want to continue, and I will work hard, tirelessly. You can ask some of my friends. I've lost a lot of sleep over this, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's always worth it to me, and that's what I'm here for, and that's why I'm looking for re-election as a student trustee.
Next week, on the 15th and 16th, I think it's right, you'll all be hopefully voting and getting your friends to vote for what is, I think, a healthy sign of student life here, that you had a contested election for student trustee. I think from listening to these two candidates today, first of all, that it's not easy to do what they just did, and to know that whatever happens next week, that you'll be well represented. So how about a hand for both? Before they leave, even though we don't have any contest for president and vice president of student government, I know Sarah Jane Jones is here. Is the incoming president here as well?
He's a timekeeper.
He's the timekeeper. All right. Why don't you come on up? Let's get a picture of you guys. Come on, Sarah. I know you're not dressed yet.